Ah,
Yes,
okay.
I can see you, sir.
Okay, very good. We are in business.
Yes. Good morning, sir.
Good afternoon to you. How are you doing?
We all are fine, sir.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about yourself. Who is in the room?
We all are computer engineering students. In India, we have a special opportunity after 10th grade. We can either go for 11th and 12th grade, or we can pursue a diploma in computer engineering, which is a 3-year program. So we all are pursuing diploma in computer engineering.
I see. Okay. And what happens once you get a diploma?
We can go for degree or we can go for job, but mostly people go for degree and they get admission to 2nd year of computer engineering in any college in India, or maybe.
I see. Okay, so you gain 1 year in college by getting this, by being in this program.
Yes, exactly, sir.
Okay. So what's on your mind?
I beg your pardon, sir.
What is on your mind?
What is on your mind? We are very excited to interview you. We have read your articles and we are all very fascinated by artificial intelligence and computer science.
Okay. Shoot, ask questions.
Yes. We would like to welcome you. There is this girl who wants to give a welcome speech.
Okay, let her give the speech. Give her the mic.
Yes. Warm greetings to our respected guest of honor for the day, Mr. Moshe Vardi, our respected HOD sir, Mr. Zamlet, staff, and my dear friends. A warm welcome to each one. I take the opportunity now to introduce our chief guest for the day. Mr. Moshe Vardi is an Israeli mathematician and computer science. He is a professor of computer science at Rice University in the United States of America. He is the Parade Austrian George Professor in Computational Engineering, Distinguished Service Professor, and Director of the Kent Canadian Institute for Information Technology. His interests focus on application of logic to computer science, including database theory, finite model theory, knowledge in multi-agent systems, computer-aided verification and reasoning, and teaching logic across the curriculum. He is an expert in model checking, constraint satisfaction and database theory, common knowledge logic, and theoretical computer science. Mr. Vardi is the author of over 400 technical papers, as well as the editor of several collections. He has authored the books Reasoning About Knowledge and Finite Model Theory and its Applications with some of his other associates. He is also the editor-in-chief of Communications of the Association of Computing Machinery, PAC. Respected sir, it is our proud privilege to have you amongst our midst today. On behalf of the entire management, staff, and students of Vardi Institute of Technology, we extend our deepest gratitude to you for accepting our invitation and sparing your valuable time to us. We hope
it's my pleasure.
A wonderful evening with us, with full of insightful learning, exploring new concepts, evaluating our knowledge, and growing our bond with it. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
It's our honor to interview, sir. Should we begin the interview?
Yes, yes.
So the first question is, what inspired you to dive into computer science?
So when I was 16 years old, which was a long time ago, I saw an advertisement in the paper about a 2-week course in programming, computer programming. And at that point, I knew absolutely nothing. I had no idea what was a computer. But I was somehow fascinated by the idea. And I took an intensive 2-week course in Fortran programming. Have you guys heard about Fortran?
Yes.
It's one of the very, very first programming languages. going back to the 1950s. And today, most people think of it as an ancient language, but at the time it was a cutting edge language. And I fell in love in programming. I thought programming was so much fun. So the rest is, as they said, the rest is history.
Yes, sir.
So, regarding computers, so recently, I mean, I watched your videos on YouTube. So they were mostly on AI, artificial intelligence. So I wanted to ask you about the recent event that Facebook faced was that they had to shut down their AI program because it started to create their own language. So my question was, if they can create such complex AI, why can't they create something that can control it in a way that we need?
Say it again slowly.
My question was, if we can create a complex AI, a program like AI, so why can't we have control on it?
Why can't we
Have control on it, as like in Facebook, the AI started to create their own languages.
Yeah.
And they shut it.
Look, so I mean, if you think about it, this is part of a technology challenge. Always has been on two sides. On one hand, we want technology that does more and more and more. Right? This is in every area of technology. You know, we are trying to build increased capability, and whenever we increase capability, invariably we increase the complexity of the system. Okay, think today of a Boeing 787. The complexity of the system. And as we increase the complexity of the system, can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah. As you increase the complexity of the system, it becomes more and more difficult to understand what the system is doing and to have full control of what the system is doing. So this has been kind of the challenge, you know, going back to the beginning of technology. If you think about it, the very beginning of technology may be the discovery of the fire. A human being discovered that they can use fire to roast the meat from the mammoth, okay? And cooked meat was easier to chew than uncooked meat. Well, what happens when you have fire? Sometimes you lose control of the fire. So even today, God knows, hundreds of thousands of years after we have tamed the fire, it's still we have a love-hate relationship with the fire, right? You think about it, it's going to be very difficult for us to live a modern life without a fire, but every year, think of how many people die or injured and the damage by fire. So we always have this complex relationship with technology, which is we want to be the master of technology, but we are not fully successful, okay? Or think about it, the automobile, again, is an amazing technology in terms of mobility, and but every year more than 1 million people are killed by car crashes. And so we are facing the same dilemma with AI, okay? We're trying to build programs. They're really AI, just a program, but we want it to do more and more. So the program is getting more and more complex. And as the program becoming more and more complex, it is harder and harder for us to understand exactly how does it behave. One of the things that we do know, so I don't know how much you guys know about Turing machines?
Yes.
You learn about Turing machines.
Yes.
So Turing machine, think about it. It's such a simple model, right? Just you have a head, and the head goes to the left, to the right, and write a symbol. Very, very simple, right? And some instructions. And nevertheless, we know that if you give me a Turing machine and ask me, will it stop? If it starts from the empty tape, will it terminate? This is what we call undecidable. There's no way to predict in advance how it will behave. The only way to know how it will behave is to run it and see what happens. So we know today that it's very easy with a very simple number of components to build very complex system, that it's very, very hard to predict their behavior. And so this is the challenge for us is always, on one hand, we're trying to build more and more complex system, and now with the area of AI, but at the same time, how do we ensure that we still keep control of the system? And in particular, with the AI, there is now the fear that we will lose control of technology. And this is an old fear. This fear goes back to you know, there is this 19th century novel Frankenstein, which has to do, again, can we keep control of our technology? Can we make sure that we are the master of technology? And now there is a debate. How do we ensure that? You know, there is one phrase that you hear now, for example, is explainable AI. We want to make sure that when AI is making a decision, it can explain it in a way that we can say, yes, we understand the decision, not just a black box. And so when AI system start talking its own language, we are afraid we're going to lose control. We won't know what it does, how does it behave. And this is going to be a continuing dilemma for us. As technology gets more and more powerful, how do we ensure that we are in control? Okay. I mean, have you guys, anybody seen the movie, what was it, Space Odyssey 2000?
Yes, 2001 Space Odyssey. Yes.
Okay, 2001, yes. Remember HAL?
Yes.
HAL, the computer, right?
Yes.
I'm afraid I cannot do that, Dave, right? Again, this was an example. So this is an old fear. We're going to lose control of technology. And this give rise to a serious research question. How do we ensure that this does not happen? And the answer is really the same way we cannot fully predict the behavior of Turing machines. We can never fully predict the behavior of any technology. And so we have technologies that run away for us. Think of, you know, Fukushima, okay? So we always live on the cutting edge, or some people say on the bleeding edge of technology. That as we are rushing to advanced technology, very often it gets away from us. And it shows us we have to be humble. It teaches us humility. We think we are the master. Well, not quite, right? Technology sometimes, it seems to have its own mind.
So is it related to the P equal to NP problem, which is still unsolved?
So no, the P versus NP, I don't know if you guys have heard, but just in the last couple of days, there have been a new announcement. Somebody is claiming that P is different than NP.
Yes.
This guy, a paper has shown up, I think just yesterday, saying, not yesterday, on Monday. On Monday, a paper showed up and saying P different than NP, and everybody is now trying to read the proof and figure out whether it's correct or not. And the dust will settle sometime in the next week or so. We will figure it out. But I'm skeptical, but we don't know yet. But P versus NP is more about the efficiency of computer program. Okay, so we have many problems that we don't have an efficient way of solving them. So take a very simple problem. You guys live in dormitories?
German.
You have dormitories. Where do you sleep at night?
Yes.
You have dormitories. So imagine the following problem. Suppose there are 3 dormitories, okay? And when you enter at the beginning of the school year, everybody says whom he hates. And he says, I don't want to be in the same dormitory as this other part, right? So Rohit says, I can't stand Amit. So I do not want to be in the same college as Amit. And the dean has a list of all these pairs that hate each other. And now the dean has to assign them to colleges so that no 2 people who hate each other will be in the same college. Very simple problem, right?
Yes.
So you get a list of pairs. A pair Rohit Amit means that Rohit and Amit do not want to be in the same college. And now we have to assign them to 3 colleges so that nobody will ever have to look in the morning in the face of someone he doesn't like or she doesn't like. Well, this is really the 3 coloring problem. And this problem is NP complete. And it means that we really don't have an efficient way of solving this problem. So your dean is spending the whole year and he has not solved the problem yet.
Yes.
So this is about how do we solve problems efficiently. And so this is different. So I said the issue to us today with AI, one of the issues, there are other issues that I can mention, but one major issue is how do we ensure that we are in control, that it does not run away from us. The same way that if you think what happened in Fukushima, you know, we had what's called a runaway nuclear reaction. We thought we can control the reaction, and we were in control of the reaction until there was an earthquake. And when the earthquake was beyond, the strength of the earthquake was beyond what people expected. And I think because of the tsunami, the generators flooded, if I remember correctly, and so on and so forth. And we lost control of the reaction. And here we are several years later, and we still have not fully regained control of Fukushima. And so this is the worry. How do we know that we don't build a system, an AI system, and this system, we think we understand how it behaves, and suddenly it behaves like HAL, and refuse to let us back into the spaceship, and who knows what. This is the issue that now people are worried about, losing control of AI.
The next question is, there is also a philosophical point of view towards AI. Like humans, we have this intuition or gut feeling. Can machines and AI develop this type of feelings and, you know, intuition and perception? And as you are of such a high honor, you must be aware with philosophy. You must have read many philosophy books. So, what do you think about the philosophical point of view? Can AI develop their own sort of intuition and something of the other realm? What do you think about that aspect?
So, you know, here we are actually getting to issues that people call philosophy of the mind.
Yes.
So it's not so much about technology. It's really, first of all, understanding ourselves. Okay. So, for example, we said that we are conscious. Okay. We think that we are conscious, right? What does it really mean to be conscious? We use the words, but we don't fully understand the word. What does it mean to have consciousness? Is it possible? So this is a question the philosopher asks. So there, you know, in the movies there are zombies,
Yes.
and I'm sure you've seen some of these horror movies with zombies, right? So maybe zombies don't have consciousness, but if you talk to a zombie, how would you know that the zombie does not have consciousness? Okay. So there are philosophical papers written, conversation with a zombie. How will we know that we are talking to a person versus talking to a zombie? So this is because the concept of consciousness is what we call a subjective experience. So each one of us thinks, yes, I am conscious. But what does it really mean? Or you think, if I tell you, you may tell me, I am sad. Well, what does it really mean to be sad? All of us has a feeling, yeah, we all experience being sad. But now I ask you, can you define to me what does it mean to be sad? And it's very difficult for us to define what does it mean to be sad. And because we cannot really define what does it mean to be sad, it's very hard to say what does it mean for an I system to be sad. I don't even know what it means for me to be sad. I know when I'm sad, okay? I think all of you know when you're sad, when you're not sad. If I ask you, define to me what it means for you to be sad, all you're going to do, you're going to use synonyms. You say, well, I'm chagrin. Okay, what is chagrin? I'm depressed. What is depressed? All you can do is run in circle with words that all of us think not only we think we understand what it means for us, I think that when you tell me you're sad, I think you know what you mean. But when you say I'm sad, how do I know that you're really sad? I don't know how to define it. And so when we talk about AI system developing what we call subjective feelings, it's very, very difficult for us to say what it means. What does it mean for an AI system to be in pain? Wow. I don't even know how to define that I'm in pain. So the question is less, if you see that this question in some sense are less about computer technology, really questions about ourselves, okay? what does it mean to be human? So one of the things that humans we have, there's something that define us. Okay, we are conscious, we have feelings, but when we try to dig deeper into this, philosopher has been now debating now for years and trying to explain consciousness. There is this book by philosopher. Title was Consciousness Explained. So people think, okay, he's done publishing books about it, but of course he came up with the next book because we do not yet have a fully satisfactory explanation of what that's called in the philosophy of the mind of subjective feeling, consciousness, intelligence. We still don't fully understand them, and therefore it's very difficult for us to say, okay, what does it mean for a program to have such subjective experience?
When we conclude that humans have become very linguistic, like there is a barrier between what we say and what we think, but there are things we can't express it using language.
So all of us are, have struggling sometimes with, describing, going from something we experience to describing it in words. I mean, take even something interesting. So it turns out if you go to, today we have a very rich, I can ask you to describe the colors around the room, and you can use many, many words to describe colors. Now, open a classical text, okay? For example, open the Mahabharata, okay? And see that the Mahabharata uses very, very little language to describe colors. And so, and this is the same phenomenon in many texts. If you look at texts from more than 2,000 years ago, such as the Mahabharata, the Iliad and the Odyssey, the Bible, none of these texts uses a lot of words to describe colors. So people are asking, what do you mean? Were they all colorblind 2,000 years ago? Is the ability to describe to make such fine distinctions between colors, is it a new human evolution? And it's very hard to believe that because it's only 2,500 years, which is very, very short time for evolution. We don't think that we are physically much different than people who lived, 2,500 years ago. So it's more the thing that has developed, it's a cultural development. We have developed this, we have noticed, oh, we can make distinction between colors, and the language, we develop the capacity of the language to make distinction between colors. Wonderful. Now I ask you, define the color blue. How do you define the color blue? And the only way you can really define it in terms of, if you know about the spectrum, you can give me the wavelengths, okay, of blue. But when you see blue, you don't see wavelengths. You see a color. Now, how do you know that the girl next to you see the same color? Maybe when you see blue, she sees it red. And what you see as red, she sees as blue. We really cannot get into each other's head. And so it's this limit to really fully, we don't understand ourselves as well as we think we do. We're making a lot of progress now in neuroscience. And the progress in neuroscience means that we will understand ourselves better. And one way to make sure that, for example, that you and the person next to you are seeing the same color is do some brain imaging and see that exactly the same place in the brain gets activated. Then we can say, well, we think you have the same experience. So now neuroscience gives us a way to open the box, and the box is your brain. But this is all very recent. Until that, the brain was just a box, and we couldn't understand what's happening inside the brain. And as we understand the brain better, we will be able to have a better understanding. What does it mean if I want to develop a machine that has feelings? Okay. For example, if I go for 12 hours without eating, I get hungry. Okay. When my computer, I get not just that I know that I need to eat. There is a feeling of discomfort. I'm hungry. Now, when my laptop goes down in battery life, does it feel any pain? Does it feel discomfort? No, it doesn't feel anything as far as we know. what would it mean to produce this feeling? The laptop would say, connect me, I need more electricity, I need to be recharged, you know, I'm famished. What would it mean for the laptop to do that? So this is all, so I say, until very recently, we couldn't even ask these questions because we could not know what it meant for us to be hungry. Other than we all feel it subjectively, but we don't know what does it mean objectively. And as we're developing more, as we're making progress in neuroscience, we might be able to develop programs that have feelings. But this is not a matter of philosophical debate. There are people who say, no. A machine can never have a feeling. A feeling is a uniquely human experience. And this is debatable because anybody has if you have a pet, if you have, for example, a dog, then you can see that the dogs seem to be happy sometimes, right? If you have been away all day and you come home, the dog is very, very happy to see you. And you can see the dog being in pain. You can see the dog being hungry. So a dog, anybody who has, and I'm a dog lover, so you can clearly see that the dogs have a feeling. The dog has experiences. Maybe the dog cannot verbalize what the dog feels, but clearly the dog have internal experience. So why cannot, if the dog can have it, then probably also a mouse can have it. So when does it stop? Why cannot a machine have subjective experience? This is a matter that philosophers are debating, you know. Should we use such very words that come from, first of all, from ourselves, should we ever apply to machines? In some sense, one of the first papers to deal with it was a paper by Alan Turing. Have you guys ever heard of Alan Turing?
Yes.
Okay. So in 1950, Alan Turing wrote a paper about machine intelligence. And so he wanted to ask the question, can machines be intelligent? And first of all, he says, I have to define intelligence. And he found it very, very, very difficult to define intelligence. How do I know that something is intelligent? Okay. So, well, how do I know that you are intelligent? Well, I know that you're intelligent because I talk to you and you're making really good observations and you're asking good questions and you're saying good answers. So I say, oh, boy, these Indian students are really, really intelligent. They ask some very good questions, okay? So Turing says, instead of trying to define intelligence, we will come up with an operational definition. Something is intelligence if it behaves intelligently. And he proposed a particular test. What is the test that he proposed? Anybody knows? Turing proposed a test for intelligence. There was a movie about it, guys. There was a movie about it. The game. The imitation game. And so this is controversial because Turing said if a machine can hold a conversation and you cannot tell the difference between that and a human, then it is intelligent. And today we think that it was a naive definition because there are many other types of intelligence. Holding conversation is one type of intelligence. The type of intelligence recognizing faces, answering. I mean, there are all kind of different type of intelligence that we measure today. Today we think of intelligence not as a unique thing, but as a portfolio of many different things that comprises of our intelligence. But holding conversation is one aspect of intelligence. So instead of defining intelligence, Turing says, if something behaves intelligently, it's good enough.
Yes.
So we could say the same thing. If a machine behaves as if it is hungry when the charge is low, when the robot may have a gauge of charge, the battery charge, and the robot will say, oh, my charge is very low. Where is the outlet? I must plug myself in. I'm really hungry to be recharged. If it behaves as if it is hungry, then it is hungry. Yes.
I have read the book Robot by Isaac Asimov, and as you were saying about it, so in the book he says that if robots will have feelings, how will they behave? So are you aware about it? Isaac Asimov.
Yes, I in fact, it's when I went to college. I was 17 years old when I went to college, and I was looking for a book in the library, and suddenly I saw this small book called I, Robot. I was in the shelves, in the stacks of book, and I saw this book, and I took it out and I started reading, and I finished the book standing there. I was so fascinated that I just didn't put it down. I just stood there holding the book for about an hour. I read the whole book cover to cover, standing in the library. So this was I fell in love with science fiction there by just reading. It was my first science fiction book, I, Robot.
Yes. So can you tell us about your transition from Israel to USA? Because it was a very big step in your life.
So I did all my education in Israel, almost all my education. That means I did my bachelor and my master and a PhD in Israel. But Israel is a very, very small country. And a conventional wisdom at the time that after your PhD, you must go see the big world, because Israel is such a small country. And in particular, you should go to some very good place and do what we call a postdoctoral studies. So, typically academic progression is you do your bachelor, and then you do your master, you do the PhD, and then you take a few more years where you are more independent than a doctoral student, but you are still under the supervision of a senior researcher. And I went to Stanford to do a postdoc. Stanford is a very famous school in California, in the Bay Area in California. And I did a postdoc at Stanford for about 4 years. And I was going to go back to Israel after that. In fact, I had a position in Israel. I was all ready to go back to Israel. But I met my wife in California, and as they say, the rest is history. I decided to stay in the United States.
Yes. Yes, sir.
If you get a chance to live life again, what things you would have done differently?
The whole beauty of life is you only live it once. And so you should never ask these kind of questions. I never ask myself this kind of question. I always ask, but so let me change your questions, okay? What you should always ask, because you make many decisions in life, and some are good and some are not so good. And you should always learn from your mistakes, and even better if you can learn from other people's mistakes. So I never ask myself, what would I do if I could do it again? Because I can never do it again. I can always ask myself, what would I do next time I'm faced with this question? Okay, that's a good question to ask. Okay.
So because since we can learn from your experiences,
so the one thing that is always an issue for computers, for many computer scientists, and even more for the male students, is that it's easy to get along with computers. Why it's easy to get along with computers? Because they follow very, very specific rules, and you know that. You know that computers follow the rules. So one of the things that when you write the first program, it probably didn't work. And you said, oh, this stupid computer, why doesn't it work? Something is wrong with the computer. And then you learn, no, there's nothing wrong with the computer. It's all, you made a mistake. You forgot a semicolon. You wrote X instead of Y. It's all about your mistake. So it's a fully logical world. There's just logic. So far, in fact, it's convenient that computers don't have emotions, right? That when you run the program and you get the wrong result, it's not because the computer didn't feel like doing the right thing, right? Computers always do what they're supposed to do. They are machines. They just behave like machines. Human beings are also in some sense machines, but they're very, very complicated machines. And they're so complicated that we don't fully understand it. But even if we are in computing, nobody is alone. everything that you do is always part of a team project. Nobody is alone. And we have evolved, in fact, over millions of years as social animals. So very often, in particular, people who are attracted to computers are not very good at human relationships. And so, you know, I try to get always better at human relationships. And what does it mean? To understand myself better, that's part of it. Some people don't fully understand their feelings. You know, they may be upset, but they don't know why they are upset. And so one is how to understand yourself better. And if you understand yourself better, in most people, some people are we call narcissists. They only think about themselves. But most people, if you understand yourself better, you understand someone else better. You can read other people's faces. You see, oh, this person looks unhappy. Why are they unhappy? Can I do something about it? Sometimes there's nothing I can do about it. It's their own experience. But I would say is the one lesson in life that more mistake I made, most of the mistakes I made with computers are almost always fixable. The mistakes I make with human beings are much, much harder to fix. So that's what I would tell you is focus more than you usually focus on human relationships.
Yes. The next question is, like in 1970s and 60s, there was no internet. So every nerd and geek used to hang out in library. And when internet was invented, everybody thought that now the number of geeks and nerds will increase dramatically as everyone will have access to cauldron of information within fraction of seconds. But it's 2017 and people are not using internet very productively. They are like social networking websites, and we do not have much producers. We have more consumers today of technology.
The part of the problem is today that if you ask what is driving technology, so there I would say is that, you know, one drive, and the drive for many of us, we would like to use technology to make the world a better place. So for example, many people every year get killed by car crashes. Can we do something about it using technology? So we are eternal human beings are terrible drivers. So can we automate driving and save millions of lives per year? That to me is a very noble goal. Yeah, that's a very noble goal. Or can we have a better cancer detection, earlier cancer detection by using better, you know, right now very often you go to you diagnose cancer by some means of radiology. A person, you do an MRI or you do a CT scan or an X-ray, and a radiologist looks at the image and says, oh yeah, I see something here, I don't like it. We think that machines will be better at reading images than humans because we can train them on millions of images. And we can do better diagnosis and faster diagnosis. So there are many ways you can think that we're using technology to improve our lives. But very often what drives technology is not that. What drives technology are corporations that develop technology. And what is the goal of these corporations? Money. They want to make money. That's what they're in business. They're in business to make money. And so, for example, Facebook wants you to use Facebook as much as possible. Why? Because the more you use Facebook, the more they get paid for advertising. Okay? So they bring psychologists, and the goal of the psychologists is to make sure that you spend more and more time on Facebook. Is this making the world a better place? Not so clear. Okay? So the challenge for all of us we are the people who are developing this technology, is how to develop technology for the benefit of mankind. Now, one of the benefits of mankind is we all have to make a living. And so there has to be, we know that basically, you know, when we try to take the profit motive out of the economy, which is what they try to do in communism, it didn't work. On the other hand, if you run the economy only by profit motive, you get greedy behavior and you get, again, technology not for the benefit of humanity. And finding this delicate balance between the two things, okay? How do we make sure, first of all, that we have a a profitable economy, because if we don't have a profitable economy, we're all going to be poor. I mean, if you look at India, hundreds of millions of people came out of poverty by participating in the global economy. Okay, the offshoring industry was a huge advance in the quality of life in India. So that's a good thing. So all of you have to think, you know, on one hand, it has to make business sense, but how do we do it so it's for the benefit of mankind? And what I mean by that, I would take people who work for tobacco companies, and I don't know how they can look themselves in the mirror every day, because we know that tobacco cigarettes kill people. Now, the people who work there to say, yes, but we only give them what they want. Right? They want to smoke. But of course they want to smoke, because you got them addicted to smoking, so now they want to smoke. So how do we make sure that working for a technology company is not going to be the equivalent for working for a tobacco company? So this is, I think, a question for all of us working in computing. How do we make sure that what we do is not because we just want to make money, but we're trying to make the world a better place?
Can we say that our priorities are wrong? Like, we spend so much money on war, like US spends so much money on war, but there are still many homeless people out there.
Yeah. So this is the challenge. Everybody should try to make a good living and have a good life. But at the same time, the question is, each one of you should think, what am I contributing to the world? And contributing to the world would mean both to myself, because if you know, when you are in a plane, if you haven't flown, they tell you what to do when the oxygen mask fall down. And they always tell you, if you have a child with you, what should you do? Put the mask first on yourself and then on your child. Why? Because if you go unconscious, you won't be able to take care of your child. So first you put the mask on yourself, but then you put the mask on your child. So first of all, we have to make sure that we live a good life, but then we have our responsibilities. We're a social animal. Our responsibility is for our fellow human beings to make the world a better place. So I want you guys to remember the two things. Make good life for yourselves, but also you have a responsibility to make the world a better place. And that's a responsibility for other people, for your family, for your friends, for your countrymen, and for humanities in general.
The next question is, can you tell us about when you won the Nobel Prize? Like, you published a research a few years ago, and in year 2000, you won the Nobel Prize, which is equivalent of a Nobel Prize in computing.
So I will tell you that getting a prize is a little bit like eating a chocolate. Okay? And what do I mean by that? When you put a piece of chocolate in your mouth, it feels good, right? There is a good. They made sure that this is a good experience. It's a little sweet, it's a little bitter. You like the combination. So you put a piece of sugar in your mouth and it's very nice. What happened the next day? Nothing. It's all over, right? All you have is a memory, but you want another piece of chocolate. So when you get a big prize, it feels good. And one reason it feels good, again, because we are social animals, and one of the things that we crave is the approval of our peers. And this is what scientists very much want. They want the approval of their peers. Okay? Because you have to understand that in science, if you really want to make big money, if you want to be rich, the people, it's important for them to really make lots of money. The answer is go to business. That's where you make money. In research, you can have a good life, but you're not going to be rich. Some awards are big. Some awards, like the Nobel Prize, is $1 million. But the Gettel Prize, I don't remember. It was not a lot of money. So it's not even the money. The money is symbolic. What it does tell you is that your peers think very highly of your work. And that's getting like a huge like on Facebook. You know, imagine if you put something on Facebook, imagine you put something on Facebook and you get 100 likes.
Yes.
You like it, right? Imagine getting 1,000 likes, okay? I've never received 1,000 likes, so I don't know about it. But imagine receiving 1,000 likes, okay? We in fact, Facebook designed it in such a way. We like likes, because like means social approval, and we're a social animal, and we like social approval. And any kind of a prize give you social approval, and therefore, I will be honest, it feels good. But after the next day, you know, you still have to brush your teeth. You still have to take a shower. I mean, life goes on and doesn't change in any significant way.
So as Einstein said, like if you can explain a very difficult concept to a 5-year-old, then you have grasped that concept well. So can you explain your paper for which you won the Golden Prize to us, like in layman's terms?
So actually, in some sense, the idea is actually in a high level is not a very complicated idea. And the idea is that human beings like to use what we call a high level languages.
Yes.
Okay, so for example, we use a programming language. Maybe you use Python. Okay, or we use Java. This is a high level language. When you execute the program, you use usually a very low level language. Okay, you use, I don't know if you have used like a x86 machine language. It's a very low level. So how do we go from Java to x86 machine language? The compiler translates it from high level to the low level. And so this is actually a very, very important principle in computer science. Human beings want to use high level languages. Computers want to execute very low level languages. So we need to bridge the gap between high level and low level. And so much of what we do in computer science is always building this bridge between high level and low level. High level is good for us, for human beings. Low level is good for computers. So what the Gödel Prize paper was about such a translation between a high level language and a low level language. And the high level language make it easy for people to use it, and the low level language made it easier for computers to use it. That was but there are many high level languages, there are many low level languages, and so the Gödel Prize for a specific translation from high level to low level. I think we are getting close to the end of the hour, so we need maybe last questions, and then we need to wrap up.
Can you tell us an interesting anecdote from your life?
Say again?
Can you tell us an interesting anecdote from your life?
Anecdotes from the life. There are many anecdotes from my life. So, interesting anecdote from my life. Let me think of anecdote from my life. Well, I had reached a variety because I grew up in Israel. Israel is a small country in a interesting neighborhood, as we call it, right? I mean, in the Middle East is an interesting place. And after I just remember I finished my PhD and I went to Stanford to do a postdoc. And then in the summer, I went back to Israel just to visit for the summer. I went there. I want to go for the summer. And it turned out that this was 1982. So I flew back from California to Israel. And on the plane, somebody was sitting next to me said, "Oh, you didn't hear? There is a war in the Middle East. There was a war between Israel and Lebanon." And so I arrived in Israel. I was immediately called in for the Israeli Defense Forces. So on Monday, I was in California, and on Wednesday, I was in a war in Lebanon. That was quite a transition.
Yes. What keeps you going through your worst times of your life? What is the driving force?
How, if you live your life fully, every day is an interesting day.
Yes.
One, you can think, what am I going to accomplish today? And if you make a little progress and you feel good, I made some progress. And The other thing that happens every day is something unexpected that happens every day. Every day happens something unexpected. And if you deal with it well, then you say, ah, okay, I handled it well. That was good. I like it. If you didn't handle it well, then you says, okay, how do I make sure that next time I will do better? Remember, that's the question. Not what would I do if I had to do it again, because you can never repeat it. What would I do the next time? So if you live your life fully, every day is an interesting day. Okay, guys, we need to wrap up here.
Can you give us an advice for young teenagers out there?
I think I gave you this, I think I would like to keep kind of a motto of your life. And in fact, it's a phrase that goes back to, was written about maybe 2,000 years ago. And it's an old Jewish phrase. It says, first of all, I have to take care of myself. But if I only take care of myself, then I'm nothing. Okay? So yes, you must take care of yourself. You have to stay healthy. You want to get good life. But if you only think about yourself, then we have a word in English for this. It's called jerk. Okay? J-E-R-K. If you only think about yourself, you're a jerk. So don't be a jerk.
Yes.
Okay? Okay, guys. It was a pleasure talking to you. One last question. I see give the mic to the girl for the last question.
Sir, I want to thank you.
It's been my pleasure.
Yeah. I want to thank you for spending this time with us, for your insightful teaching, and for giving us the right perspective in life. We enjoy these moments with you, and these lessons are for life.
Okay.
All of us, I would also like to thank our principal, the HOD sir, the staff, Mr. Deshmukh sir, for organizing this event and helping us expand our knowledge. And all of us present here for taking this initiative, for organizing this event, and for making this a grand success. Thank you, sir.
Do you know what this means?
Peace.
Yes.
Peace.
No. With this like this. Who does it? Science fiction.
Aliens.
Mr. Spock does it.
Yeah.
It means live long and prosper.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.